Episode 6 of Andor Season 2 is here.
God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay
everyone?
calm.
What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Bix finally gets her revenge. Mon Mothma and Luthen go toe-to-toe with Director Krennic, and the setup for the Gorman massacre is all but complete. This 6th episode is the best that Season 2 has offered so far. It might even be one of the best episodes of Andor, period. End of sentence. Oh yeah, and they recast Bail Organa. But we'll get to that because there's so much going on in this episode 6 that it feels like the finale of the entire season. But no, it's just the halfway point. So without further ado, let's break this thing down. Episode 6 is titled What a Festive Evening. This is in reference to the party that happens later on in the episode with Luthen, Mon Mothma, and Krennic. But before we even get to that party, we have a very angry Cassian Andor, as this episode opens on Steergard. We've heard of Steergard so much throughout the first season of Andor, but we have never seen it before. And this is our first time in Star Wars seeing the planet of Steergard. We don't get much of Steergard. This is just where Luthen picks up Cassian from his mission on Gorman, but it's still seeing Steergard. But Cassian was just on a mission undercover as Varian Sky on Gorman. He was investigating what's going on there, as there is a rebellion growing on the planet. The Empire is secretly trying to make an Imperial armory, and the Gormans are not going to stand for that. However, episode 5 ended with Cassian saying no to the leader of this rebellion named Caro Rylans. To Cassian, the plan sounded straight up dumb. They're going to steal weapons from the Empire, and instead of fleeing the crime, they're going to stay on Gorman and tell the other Gormans about this crime. So episode 6 starts out with Cassian pretty upset. He tells Luthen on their way back to Coruscant on the Fondor that they shouldn't get involved. He tells them that they're not ready. They're trying to do this all way too quick. They don't even know what they're doing. The Empire is building an armory at the center of their city, and there's nothing that they'll be able to do about that. They're only going to make trouble and make things a lot worse for the people of Gorman. And honestly, I think Cassian's right here. I think next week in episodes 7, 8, and 9, we're going to see the Gorman massacre, as just what Cassian is telling Luthen is going to come into reality. These rebels on Gorman are no match for the might of the Empire, and they will all be slaughtered. But Luthen seems to be the more optimistic one here, saying there's always something that can be done. But Cassian is not looking at the bigger picture. As Luthen tells him, Gorman is huge. A new front line for the rebellion against the Empire on a planet like Gorman? He tells Cassian that he's thinking way too small. He's thinking like a thief, and he needs to think like a leader. Think about a planet like Gorman with the wealth and status of the people there. If they all rebel against the Empire, it would be enormous. To which Cassian responds with, and if it goes up in flames, Luthen says it will burn
very brightly.
He's pretty much saying even if Gorman is a failure, it will still be a light to the rest of the galaxy that the Empire is evil. Pretty much a win-win. We then cut to the gallery on Coruscant, where Clea answers the radio to talk to Luthen. Speaking in code, Luthen tells her that Andor is out. He doesn't want this Gorman stuff. But they have a backup plan in place, and that backup plan is named Vel and Cinta. Both of these characters were introduced in Season 1 on Aldhani. Vel is the cousin to Mon Mothma, while Cinta is Vel's love interest. At the end of Episode 3 in Season 2 of Andor, we saw Cinta take away Tay Koma, and seeing that Tay was not in or even mentioned in these 3 episodes, it seems like he was taken care of. But over the last 2 years, Vel and Cinta haven't really been connected much. Luthen, for some reason unknown to us, has made sure that Vel and Cinta aren't on the same missions. Well, that was up until Gorman. He realizes how important Gorman is going to be for the cause, so he allows Vel and Cinta to go on this mission together. And well, little did he know that this would be the end of Cinta. But we'll get to that in a little bit. As we cut back to Coruscant, Cassian has finally made it back home. Last he saw Bix, she was in some rough shape, having nightmares of Dr. Gorst and taking this weird blue drug to be able to sleep. But now, after this very warm welcome, it seems like Bix is doing a lot better after her talk with Luthen while Cassian was gone. And when Cassian hears about this little talk with Luthen while he's gone, he's not very happy about it. Cassian seems to think that Luthen did this on purpose. Waited for him to leave town so that he could come in and play these mind games on Bix. Cassian even says at one point in this conversation that he has to know that we were going to have this conversation. He doesn't do anything for no reason. Now it is clear that at some point in this second season, Luthen is going to die. He's not in Rogue One. He's a leader of the rebellion, and he's always been talking about this sunrise that he's never going to see and how he's given everything to the rebellion. But how he dies is going to be very, very important. He's been quite the mentor to Cassian over the last 2 years. But with these seeds of doubt being cast upon Cassian and Luthen's relationship, I wonder if that will spiral into something worse. Is it possible that Cassian could be the one to kill Luthen? Tell me what you think in the comments. So we cut to Mon Mothma and Perrin also on course, leaving one party to go to the next. Perrin is complaining about how all these senators are trying to host their own parties. He says it's tough to squeeze a whole year of insincerities into 3 nights. But the biggest party of them all is Davos Skalden. And we learn in episode 5 that Davos is in quite the pickle. Somebody sold him a fake artifact for his collection, and now he's going to have to check all of the other artifacts in his collection, see if any of them are fake. And the problem that arises from that is that Luthen and Clea placed a listening device on one of the artifacts that they sold to Davos. So that party is going to be quite the event, especially when you sprinkle in a little bit of Director Krennic. But even before Luthen has to deal with the trouble of Imperial officers, he has to deal with Cassian Andor, as later that night Cassian arrives at the doors of the gallery.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Cassian is pissed, yelling at him about coming to his house and talking to Bix while he's not there. He's not having any of it. And Luthen is just trying to explain to him that he is putting everything in extreme risk right now just by being here. He tells Cassian that this is the second time today that he's let him down, the first one being not agreeing to help the Gormans. But the reason this scene specifically is so important is because it shows how much growth Cassian still has to do before we see him in Rogue One. He is not the leader that we know and love from that movie. He's still a guy who makes these sporadic decisions. It's almost like we're looking at a strange master and apprentice situation here. And Cassian, the apprentice, still has a lot to learn. Luthen says you have to be able to give up everything. You're too vulnerable to let up Bix. You're soft on the Gormans, but willing to protect Bix at any cost. He tells Cassian plainly, Bix has to pull it together, or you will have to decide at what point she becomes too big of an issue. And Cassian says, I came with you to join something special. And he asks Luthen for his help in all of this, but he doesn't give it. And we cut to the ISB headquarters, where we get a scene with Partagaz, where he tells Lonnie and Hurt that Dr. Gorst's success has been noticed by the military. In all these negotiation results that the ISB is having, well, they want a piece of that. So the military is convinced the Emperor that Dr. Gorst is too valuable of an asset to just work for the ISB, so he will be expanded to get his own program. And well, let's be real, he doesn't really get that program. Back on Gorman, we finally get the reunion between Vel and Cinta, and I'm fully convinced they designed these windows just for this one scene, and it was worth it. These two are sent to Gorman to make sure this rebel plan works, but they quickly picked up where they left off. Cinta tells Vel that she had an accident, and that it's been a long year, but she'll tell her about it some other day. And well, I guess we'll never know that story. Thanks a lot, Cinta. God. But she says that she had quite some time to think while she was resting up. And well, she thought about Vel. Back in the ISB headquarters, we get a scene between Dedra and Partagaz. Dedra informs him that a rebel attack is imminent, and everything seems to be going smoothly. However, Partagaz warns her, Cyril must not learn of what truly is going on here. He can't know about the secret committee that was created by Krennic, and the real reason that the Empire is on Gorman, to mine all the Calcite for this energy initiative ordered by Palpatine himself. Back on Gorman, Vel and Cinta are now linked up with the rebels as they are planning out their attack. Vel takes a very commanding role in this room, making sure that these rebels listen to their commands. Because although Cassian did not want to help the Gormans, he still did warn them that they had no idea what they were doing and no idea what they were getting themselves into. These people, although they call themselves rebels, have no experience fighting or stealing anything. So Vel and Cinta are really the pros in the room, and they have to teach them all what to do and how to do it. She tells them that nobody should have a blaster out there except for her and Cinta. And well, that message didn't get across. These rebels really don't want to take orders from strangers. But Vel keeps repeating herself. She can't emphasize this enough. You have to respect the chain of command. Anything I or Cinta say goes, and nothing else matters. We have blasters, you don't. You move when we say you move. We're in charge, not you. And they plan to do all of this tomorrow night. Back on Coruscant, Bix is still buying off of Heisenberg, drinking this blue drug.
Say my name.
As Cassian wakes up, and she tells him that the light is flashing again. This signal that means Luthen wants to meet. And while that happens, on Gorman, Vel and Cinta have quite the night. Cinta apologizes for not telling Vel about all the stuff that happened over the last 2 years, and Vel just seems to have all of her anger geared towards Luthen. Cassian's mad at Luthen, Vel's mad at Luthen, Mon Mothma's probably mad at Luthen for killing Tay Koma. Things aren't looking too great for Luthen. All his friends don't really like him too much. He also even had an argument with Clea in episode 5. Maybe Luthen just goes insane and the rebellion has to take him out. Would be pretty crazy. This scene between Vel and Cinta ends with what only can be explained in the wise words of Dedra Mira.
Turn out the lights.
And as we cut back to Coruscant, we are now in the Senate building, as Mon Mothma is watching as an Oathkeeper is in Palpatine's chair in the middle of the Senate building, and he is screaming out this oath that everybody is repeating, vowing their allegiance to the Empire. But as Mon Mothma says these words, she grows angry and can't take it anymore, as she storms out very quickly. Across town on Coruscant at Luthen's gallery, Luthen and Kleya get ready for Davos's party. We see the usual Easter eggs in this gallery. Padme Amidala's helmet, her headdress thing, is the new one for season 2. Where the hell Luthen gets all this stuff from, I have no idea. Give me your best guess in the comments below. Then we see Mon Mothma and Perrin arrive at Davos's party, as they are met by a very familiar character. Not a familiar voice, not a familiar face, but a familiar character. Yeah, that's right, this is Bail Organa, but it's not Jimmy Smits. No, they recast Bail Organa. Now, I've had a couple hours to think about this. I am very tired with a lack of sleep, and I might have lost my mind, but I'm not a fan of this. If you want to bring back Luke, if you want to bring back Leia, if you want to bring back Han, deepfake them. It works great in the Book of Boba Fett. Even Hayden Christensen de-aged in Ahsoka in The World Between Worlds, fantastic. I get it, actors are busy. Jimmy was probably busy, but I don't know. Recasting a character like Bail Organa? It just feels weird, especially when it's only this one-off scene. He must have a way bigger role in the back half of this season, because there is no way that they just recasted Bail Organa to do this one scene where he's saying hello and goodbye to Mon Mothma and her husband. What's the point in that? It must be to establish that Bail Organa will play a big role in the back half of this season. But tell me in the comments below, do you like the recast for Bail Organa? Or do you think they should have just went around the character? The whole thing is just a little strange to me. And while this party is going on, another party is happening at the ISB headquarters, as Dedra and Partagast, with the help of Cyril on Gorman, are making sure the rebel activities on Gorman run smoothly. These two events run in tandem for the majority of the rest of this episode. The tension just builds perfectly with both events happening at the same time. Now at this party on Coruscant, we do see what could be a familiar face. It looks like this could be Timra Palo behind Davos when Mon Mothma and Perrin first arrive at the party. We also get introduced for the first time in Star Wars the paparazzi droid, and I certainly hope this is not the last time we see this guy. We also see that Luthen and Kleya are also already at the party, and the surprise guest of the evening is Lonnie. He only got an invite because Partagast could not come because of what was happening on Gorman. So a lot of things had to go right for this night to work. If the rebel attack wasn't happening on Gorman, Lonnie wouldn't be there. And Lonnie is pretty much the key as to why they get away with what happens tonight. Luthen goes over to Mon Mothma and they share a pretty interesting conversation. Mon is asking about her cousin, Vel, because she hasn't heard from her in quite some time. And Luthen says, is there something urgent that you need to get to her? And Mon Mothma says, yeah, I care about her. She's pretty much just saying, I'd like to know if she's alive. And that might be the final straw if Luthen and Mon Mothma have a falling out. It would be Vel's death. Because if she died, I'm sure Mon Mothma would blame all of that on Luthen, because she'd probably die on a mission that Luthen sent her on, but only time will tell. As the conversation gets interrupted by Perrin, who says Skaldin's collection awaits. Only a select few get to go see this collection, and Kleya needs to be one of the people in that room so she can remove the listening device. So she goes up to Lonnie, pretending to flirt with him so that she can get in the room, because Lonnie has access. And as they come into the collection, they go toe-to-toe with Director Krennic. Usually in Star Wars, the good guys are fighting the bad guys with blasters or lightsabers or the Force. In this scenario, the good guys are standing right across from the bad guys, and there's a little fighting with their words, but nothing else. Politics at its finest. However, across the room, Kleya is using Lonnie as a human shield, as she's trying to remove this device that she placed on this artifact. And while she does that, on Gorman, the rebels have started their attack. They've placed the mines in the street, and they shut down this Imperial transport. As they begin to steal the cargo on board, Cyril is watching from above, reporting back everything to Dedra and Partagast. As they are stealing this transport from the Empire, Kleya is explaining to Lonnie what is happening. If she doesn't get this device, they're all dead. Luthen will be caught, Kleya will be caught, Mon Mothma will likely be caught, and at this point, Lonnie will be too because he's helping Kleya right now. As she's trying to twist free this device, the party of Krennic, Mon Mothma, Luthen, and the others starts to migrate closer, looking around the collection one by one, but the device is stuck. So much so that her hand starts to bleed, because she's trying to twist it so hard. While she is trying to twist this out, she's telling Lonnie about this artifact. It's a Tinian codex. It was created 2,000 years ago, and the Tinians believed that blind people were the gifted ones. It's a very cool concept to think of. In the Star Wars galaxy, there's so many different planets with so many different religions and all these different beliefs. So out there's some tribe or some planet that thought that blind people had special abilities. And who knows? Maybe they did with the Force. However, back on Gorman, the plan is beginning to fall apart, as this old lady just happens to be walking by. And things get way worse when this guy, who kinda looks like an older Leonardo DiCaprio, comes out. He wants to know what's going on, and no one is going to stop him. But the rebel pulls out a blaster, which he's not supposed to have because Vel specifically said no blasters except for her and Cinta. And as the two start to fight, a blaster bolt gets randomly fired. And that randomly fired bolt hits Cinta, killing her. Crazy way to go out. And obviously Vel is extremely upset. Not only is he not supposed to have a blaster, but now her girlfriend is murdered. And back on Coruscant, after the blood, sweat, and tears and almost getting caught by Director Krennic, Clea did manage at the very last second to get out the device, and even has Lonnie explain why this is her favorite piece. And as Clea and Luthen are leaving the party, Luthen says, "My face hurts from smiling so much." And then he jokingly says, "We should have killed Krennic while we were up there." I mean, why not? But the episode ends in a pretty crazy way. Bix finally gets her revenge, as we see Dr. Gorst coming into work. And as he enters the room and the lights turn on, Bix is standing in the corner with a blaster. He tells him to get in the chair, and Gorst recognizes her. He knows that he has seen her before, but doesn't quite know where. And before he can figure it out, Bix puts the torture device on his head and straps him into the chair. She turns on the device and leaves the building. And on her way out, she shoots a guard, killing him. Now this is a stone cold killer. She's even wearing Cassian's jacket to even symbolically show that she is now becoming him. And as she leaves the building and Cassian joins her, he presses a button in the building behind them, blows up, killing Dr. Gorst for good. And that ends episode 6. And I mean, come on. These 3 episode arcs work so perfectly. I was skeptical at first, but it really pays off. This 3rd episode of this arc, the stuff on Gorman, all the stuff with Luthen and Mon Mothma and Clea, having Bix get her revenge, and even killing off Cinta, which I did not see coming. I give this episode a 9.7 out of 10. It might be one of my favorite episodes of Andor, period. It's up there with episodes like One Way Out, The Eye, and the finale of season 1. It's got me really excited because we still have 6 more episodes of this 2nd season, and I still think we have room to grow and get even better. But tell me in the comments below, what do you rank this episode out of 10? And do you like this 3 episode a week releases? Tell me in the comments, and if you missed my episode 5 breakdown, well, you can go check it out right here.